him blocking the way in.
Let's see those ones moved out. Y'all see moved out. Thank you. Actually, we'll have one thing.
Call to order the monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees for January 19th, 2017. Before we move any further, a member of the Lexington District 2 family, Lori Williams, lost her beautiful son Brett this past Tuesday. I would like for us to take a moment of silence in remembrance of Brett and to let Lori and the entire Williams family know that they are constantly in our thoughts and prayers. Let's bow our heads. And amen. Next on the agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. And I'll turn that over to Vice Chairman Bingham.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tonight we have with us Michael and David Cook from Airport High School. The twins, Michael and David Cook, are students at Airport and are ranked in the top 10% of their senior class. They are lifelong residents of Springdale, where they both attended Springdale Elementary and former middle school. Michael and David have been accepted to Anderson University, Campbell University, Mercer University, University of South Carolina, and have applied to Clemson University. Both are interested in pursuing degrees in mechanical engineering. Michael and David are members of the Beta Club and the National Honor Society and have represented airport and Tex Ed ambassadors and Boys State delegates. Both run varsity cross country and track and field. In addition to the honor of participating in the Shrine Bowl run, both have gained local, regional, and state recognition for their running prowess. Michael and David are active in youth activities at Mount Tabor Lutheran Church, where they regularly serve as acolyte, crucifer, and serve in the church kitchen. During the summer of 2015, they represented their church as delegates to the South Carolina Lutheran Church Youth Synod Assembly, where David worked with a team of teens who drafted a resolution against racial discrimination. In the aftermath of the historic October 2015 flood, both assisted with Red Cross water relief efforts through the church and helped to repair a home in Tennessee on a summer mission trip. This past summer, Michael and David requested a week off from their summer job working in the maintenance department at a low-income housing development to volunteer at Grace Works in downtown Columbia. Michael and David feel most at peace when they are outside enjoying nature, and when they're not studying or attending church, they enjoy spending time with family and friends, hunting, fishing, camping, or tinkering on their trucks. Michael will lead us tonight in the invocation, followed by David leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So Michael, if you will step to the podium.
An invocation for 2017. Let us pray. Lord, as we begin a new year, help us to be mindful of our challenges and successes, what we learned and what changed our lives in the past year. Let us not just leave last year behind, but help us to use it as a springboard for future success. As we think about our blessings, may we consider what our responsibility is to share them with others. Help us to be committed to one another, our schools, and community. But Lord, above all else, help us that we may live wisely and peacefully while working to answer the call we share to positively influence our world. It is in your name we ask these things. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and if no objection, agenda will stand approved as submitted. Next item is public participation period.
We have no one signed up tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Next item is report on honors and accomplishments.
Yes, Madam Chair. As all of you know, and thank you for coming to the reception for our board, January is School Board Recognition Month throughout the state of South Carolina. And the governor has encouraged all South Carolinians to recognize the contributions of local school boards and how they foster the academic success of public school students across the state. This year's theme is School Boards Stand Up for South Carolina Public Schools. And that calls attention to the unique role of school boards in promoting and advocating for quality public education. We here at the district would like to recognize and thank our board. They are truly dedicated individuals, and a long time of being in this business, this is probably the finest board I have ever known. And they care deeply about our kids. Our board receives no compensation whatsoever. They spend an awful lot of time, they work awful hard, and they have a tremendous commitment to our schools and to our kids. The South Carolina School Boards Association has provided this poster that will be framed, ethical principles for board members, and our board has chosen to publicly sign this. And Ms. Wooten is going to read the principles, and then after that we'll have our board sign that. But in a token of our appreciation, I would ask that we stand and give our board recognition. Thank you very much.
Probably shouldn't pass this all the way down, each one of us read one, but anyway, I'll go ahead. As a member of my district school board, I pledge my efforts to improve public education in my community and will solemnly try and to represent the interest of the entire district when making decisions and to rely on available facts and our judgment rather than an individual or special interest group. Understand the proper role of the board to set policies governing the district and to hire the chief administrative officer to carry out these policies. Encourage an open exchange of ideas by all board members during the decision-making process. Seek regular communications between the board and students, staff, and all segments of the community. Attend all board meetings to study issues facing the board and to enact policies and official actions only after full discussion at such meetings. Work with other board members in a conscious and courteous manner befitting the public trust placed in the position of school board trustees. Communicate concerns and public reaction to board policies and school programs to the superintendent and other board members in a professional manner. Support employment of the persons best qualified for staff positions and to ensure a regular and impartial evaluation of all staff. Avoid conflicts of interest and to refrain from using my board position for personal or partisan gain. Encourage recognition of the achievement of students and staff and of the involvement of community residents. Support legislation and funding which will improve the educational opportunities and environment for students and staff. Take no individual action which would compromise the integrity of the board or administration and to respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under the Freedom of Information Act. Study current educational issues and to participate in training programs such as those offered through the South Carolina School Boards Association and the National School Board Association, and make our district's educational setting the best possible to encourage all students to achieve and to learn, to love learning. Okay. Gotta all get up. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Turn that over to the superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. At the November 17th meeting, the board, the administration recommended changes to board policy LEC, and that stipulates employees within the school cannot be an officer or support organization that supports that particular school. It does, however, still allow for the employee to serve as an officer at another school within the same district. The administration would recommend the approval of the second reading of the recommended changes to board policy LEC support organization.
Mr. Van?
Madam Chair, I make a recommendation we have second reading on the proposed policy LEC support organizations.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Kessler. All in favor, say aye.
Discussion?
Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Brad. Discussion.
I understand we talked about this last time, that the main point of this is to avoid any issues with money.
Correct.
I would recommend maybe we amend this so that they can be an officer as long as they are not the treasurer. My concern is something like a PTA, parent-teacher, that teachers are supposed to be involved in this. A lot of these teachers are driving forces behind an SIC, a PTA, that kind of thing. So I completely agree with making sure they have no control over monies, but I don't know that it's best to have them completely out of the officer positions altogether.
Well,
Membership.
the whole idea is that by taking them completely out of the officership, that it's not necessarily something to do with the secretary of treasurer. It's the fact that in addition to having money, having decisions over how the money is spent. And quite honestly, it's more about protecting the school and the personnel that are our folks than it is about the organization itself. Certainly we want teachers and most principals ask that their staff come back to PTO, PTA, booster club, those kind of meetings anyway. We want our folks involved in that, but we don't want to ever get our folks in a situation where they may be compromised or there's the appearance of compromise. Sure. So the reason we included Kelly did some research and talked to some folks is that we felt like having them in a role where you either handled the money or made a decision on how the money was spent in the same school that you work could potentially cause a problem for them, and that was the whole rationale behind it.
No, and I understand. I'm just wondering if we're carrying it a little too far. Do we know how other districts handle this? Do they have something similar to that?
There are a lot of districts that have a very similar policy that some state that no employee serve as an officer, and some as the not serve as the treasurer. But it's pretty varied across the state. There are many that do have this policy. Ms. Brady.
And I appreciate and understand where y'all are trying to go with this, because I can understand how, you're trying to decide how to spend money in my school, and he's the principal, the teachers might want to come to me and ask me for stuff without going through him. I get that. But it also concerns me, we have language that supports such an organization that supports their location of employment. So I see that you're trying to limit it to if he's on Springdale's staff, he can't be on Springdale's, but he can be on airports.
Correct.
I understand that. But one underlying problem I kind of see with that language is that every district employee doesn't have a contract with just airport or Springdale. Their contract is actually Lexington too. So I don't know if that wording might need to actually be tweaked, your school of assignment, or you see what I'm saying, Dr. James? Just because Lexington 2 is actually their employer and they're in place of employment,
right.
Which he could be at airport tomorrow, and then I guess he would just have to give up his officer position.
Correct, and that's our thinking. And again, I'm stepping way out there because you current and the idea was that yes, they are employees of Lexington 2, and they get a Lexington 2 contract, but an assignment goes along with that contract. And if someone moved from Springdale to the airport, basically this is an umbrella kind of thing that says, obviously you couldn't be an officer at the airport. They would have to give that up. Hopefully this is a lot less complicated and a lot less impacting than it appears here. And the whole motivation was just to make sure that we look out for our folks, because money in those organizations is kept separate from school money. And we don't want our folks to get into a problem with how it's spent or who's got it.
Well, how about make a motion to amend then that takes that last line, their location of employment, and makes it their assigned school location. So I'm making a motion to amend.
All right, so I have on the floor a motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Question.
don't mind supporting, but I think that's what the statement says, that the employees within a school cannot be an officer for a support organization that supports their school. So that word within, I think, incorporates what you're saying, doesn't it?
I'm just talking about the emphasis that's placed on the bolded and squared off language.
Basically.
Because that appears to be what the rule is going to be, is what's in that squared off language of bold.
Yeah. But I think it's got
Do you change from location that supports their location of employment to?
Their assigned school location. Because to me, we are their location of employment, that's our district. I just think, I know it's a word play, I'm not trying to wordsmith it to death.
There's no problem, I'll second that motion. It's the same thing.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to change the wording to their assigned school location. Is that correct? All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Recommendations.
That's the motion to change the language.
Right.
Now you got.
Go back to the first amendment, the first motion, which I have a second, is for the approval of the second reading. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The next item is update on school cameras to be replaced. Mr. Eisenhower.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, I think Mr. Bingham wanted us to do some research and give a report on how many analog cameras would still be left in effect after we get through this first round of camera replacements and installation of new cameras. And according to A3, and they're here tonight, we would have 226 analog cameras still remaining that we would be replacing as they start failing.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Mr. Bingham?
So how many are we replacing now?
You remember, Scott?
I know I have to count off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I didn't grab that number. But there's several cameras at several sites that are being added, new cameras to each site, and we could go through the quote here and tally that for you while we're sitting here.
We voted on that in November. I'm sorry, I don't have that with me, so. I
Okay.
apologize.
That was the information you asked for.
Yeah.
That's what you asked for.
The
So we're
information
gonna
you
get
asked for
that.
was how many analog would be left.
All right. All right, well, we'll move on while we're waiting. Next is new business. And the first item is consideration of change for the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees for February.
Yes, ma'am. As you all know, the 16th board meeting is during the same time frame as the South Carolina School Board Association annual convention. A good number of our board members have gone and been active in the South Carolina School Board Association, so the administration would recommend moving the meeting from February 16th to the following week of February 23rd.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to accept administration's recommendation to approve rescheduling the monthly meeting from February 16th to February 23rd, 2017.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Giles. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item is presentation of financial and procurement audit results for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016.
Yes, we completed our audit of fiscal year 2015-16 prior to the winter break and submitted everything to the Department of Education on time. And we have Matthew Hodges from Burkett to give you a summary of the audit and the fiscal year end.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dr. James, thank you very much for your time tonight for me to present the results of our audit for fiscal year 2016. Our audit team consists of Larry Montague, who's our audit partner, who's responsible for overseeing our audit engagement and signing our reports. Again, I'm Matthew Hodges, audit manager, and oversaw the day-to-day operations of our audit as well as the single audit portion. And Sam Hoffman is one of our CPAs who oversaw the procurement audit. We want to express our appreciation to Kelly Richardson as well as Cindy Gillespie, Tony Shealy, and your entire staff for all of their cooperation, giving us information on a timely basis to perform our audit. Pleased to present that we had no disagreements whatsoever with management and the performance of our audit. Not aware of any consultations with any other independent accountants for second opinion. There were no issues discussed prior to our retention as your auditors. We encountered no difficulties whatsoever in performing our audits and received full cooperation from your personnel. Your financial statements and note disclosures are fairly presented in accordance with accounting principles that are generally accepted in the United States, and there are no unrecorded misstatements to the financial statements. Our audit followed generally accepted auditing standards, governmental auditing standards, as well as the audit requirements of the Uniform Guidance. We tested your transactions based on our understanding and knowledge of the activities of Lexington 2. We used our professional judgment in determining appropriate sample sizes for our testing. That means that we designed our test for reasonable but not absolute assurance. And in performing our test, we didn't note any instances of non-compliance with district policy. We've issued 3 clean opinions. First, an unmodified or clean opinion on your financial statements. Secondly, there were no deficiencies in internal controls or financial reporting that were considered material to your financial statements. And lastly, an unmodified clean opinion on compliance for your major federal award programs. So Lexington 2 continues to be in an excellent financial position. First of all, your unassigned general fund balance was $8.9 million as of June 30th, 2016. That is 12.5% of total general fund expenditures for fiscal year 2016. That represents about a month and a half worth of expenditures for the year, just to give you an idea. So that's an excellent place to be. And once again, for the prior fiscal year 2015, you received the Certificates of Excellence in Financial Reporting from both ASBO and GFOA. And we certainly anticipate that you'll continue to receive those certificates for fiscal year 2016 as well. Just a brief summary of your financial statements. For the general fund, total assets were $22.4 million. Over 3/4 that was represented in cash and short-term investments. Total liabilities, almost $12 million. The deferred inflows resource, $1.5 million, represents unearned property taxes from Lexington County, as well as the fund balance of $8.9 million as of June 30th, 2016. That's a little hard to read there, but I'll give you a little information as far as the change from fiscal year 2016 from the prior year. Your total revenues were $71.2 million. That's an increase of just over $2 million from the prior year. A good bit of that was due to increased property taxes, almost $1 million compared to the prior year, as well as additional funding from the state for the fringe benefit, employer contributions, vocational program, and residential treatment facilities program. Your total expenditures were $71 million. That's an increase of almost $700,000 compared to the prior year. And that is mainly due to salaries on the instructional side, due to elementary salaries and instructional staff for curriculum development. So your change in fund balance was $735,000 for fiscal year 2016, again resulting in a general fund balance of $8.9 million. For your government-wide financial statements, you had $149 million of current assets, as well as net capital assets of $105 million, the total assets of $255 million. Your deferred outflows were $10,691,000. That's between both bond refunding charges as well as pension charges related to your net pension liability. Total government-wide liabilities were $292 million. That includes short-term bonds and the other current liabilities, $9.5 million, as well as about $158 million worth of bonds and almost $100 million of net pension liability. Your deferred inflows, again, relate to that net pension liability. So the net position shows a deficit of $27,671,000. When you look at that unrestricted deficit, about $93 million of that is related to the net pension liability, which was first introduced last year. So that was a new accounting standard last year. It's in its second year now and relates to your piece of the state's deficit for the employees' pensions. Okay. All right. Have any questions as far as our audit for fiscal year 2016? I'll be happy to address them.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you
Oh,
very
excuse
much.
me.
Yes.
Back up on the slide. Explain that again about
Absolutely.
the
Certainly.
pension.
The pension liability is an actuarially determined amount. They perform an actuarial valuation of South Carolina PIBA. So that's all state employees' pensions that feed into the retirement system. They perform an actuarial evaluation to determine what the assets are, as well as the liabilities, and any unfunded liability then is the remaining amount. What they do is they provide a calculation to all state employers that shows what their contributions were for that fiscal year. That contribution is compared to the contributions of other employers across the state of South Carolina. So you've got a ratio of how much Lexington 2 has contributed versus all employers in the state of South Carolina. They take that ratio, multiply it by the state's deficit, and that's how we come up with that net pension liability amount. That, again, was a new requirement last year. It had never been shown in your financial statements before. There's no expectation that you're going to have to write a check for that amount. That's simply a requirement that has been put forth by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that you're in compliance with. And bond rating agencies and others that are looking at your financial statements understand that that's not something that you're going to have to come out of pocket for. That's just something that you're required to present.
So that's our theoretical portion of unfunded pension.
Exactly.
Because the state is not funding it properly.
Exactly. You're making your contributions to South Carolina retirement as you have been requested to. So you're current and in compliance. It's just, again, you're required, it's been pushed down to the employer level, and you have to report that in your financial statements.
So that is the portion, obviously the pension is a huge amount of money they have in a pot, but that's how much unfunded liability is in the pension. That's our proportionate share of that unfunded liability.
You're exactly right. And we include, way back in the back in the note disclosures in your financial statements, a statement of what that total deficit is at the state level. So again, that the readers can understand, that's the state level. We take a percentage, which is very small, of your contributions compared to all contributions, and that's how we come up with the net pension liability that you're required to report on your financial statements. Again, almost $100 million based on the much larger, in the billion, deficit at the state level.
Can you enlighten us, why is it that we would report that when we're just paying the pension funds to them?
That's a question that a lot of people have had to ask, unfortunately, the last couple of years, because this is a requirement that folks at this Governmental Accounting Standards Board, that they set the rules as to what has to be reported on your financial statements. They've decided that that is useful information for the readers of financial statements, that they would need to know what these deficits, these theoretical deficits are for these pension liabilities. Again, I'll let you determine if you feel like that's actually useful information, but we, in order for us to do our audit and to issue a clean opinion, we've got to follow the rules that are out there. And all that is, again, we kind of break it out as much as we possibly can in those note disclosures so that the readers of the financial statements can make their own judgments if they want to back out and determine, okay, what's the reality of the situation.
What's the impact of that going on the statement?
It was on the statements as of June 30th of 2015, so we are now in the second year of reporting that net pension liability. Again, the bond rating agencies are aware that all governmental agencies that follow generally accepted accounting principles are going to have that liability on their books, and that it's based on something that's really outside of their control. So we haven't seen any sort of negative impact in terms of ratings directly related to that from the prior fiscal year. Again, as I mentioned, y'all did receive the Certificate of Excellent Financial Reporting for fiscal year 2015, where this was first reported. So you're following the rules that you have to follow, and including all the information so that the readers can make their own judgments.
And Mr. Bingham, the note disclosure starts on page 72 that he was referring to, if you want to peruse that.
It's about 10 pages, I think, that you would need to peruse. It's quite a bit of a verbiage that we had.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda is under new business, as item C, presentation of keyless entry trial at Busby Creative Arts Academy.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, to go back to the old business, I think that AGRU has been looking at the previously approved contract, and I think there are 93 new cameras being replaced in or new additional cameras being purchased in that contract that was presented in November. 226 analog cameras will remain.
There'll be just some correction, it's 99.
I'm sorry, 99.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So 226 and then 99?
99 are being replaced. There will still be 226 that are working and not being addressed, that are analog cameras.
But will it be replaced as they flip out?
Yes, that's the plan. Okay. Now, with regard to keyless entry, as you know, we've been working on trying to do a trial access reader program at the Busby Creative Arts Academy. We have checked with a couple of vendors. We've looked at several different options. What we have arrived at, the recommendation that we would make would be to award the contract to replace the doors where the keyless entry is going to have to go on. And the reason we're going to have to replace those doors is because they're storefront doors that have the hardware recessed into the doors, and they have basically a rod system that does not work well with keyless entry. Now, you can do mag locks, and we looked at that option, but in order to do mag locks, you've got to do a box somewhere that you have to push to exit. And I actually saw that in place at Airport High School just yesterday, and without any kind of issue taking place, I saw a lady that was coming out of the office and didn't know that they had to push that push to release, and kind of felt like she was locked in, and then figured out what was going on. You can do that, but those have to be connected to the fire alarm system in order to meet code in this state. I'm a little bit concerned about liability when we start doing those types of things, whether or not that switch is going to work properly, how long that box will last, how long, I'm just a little concerned about doing that. The system that we're talking about, when you include replacing the doors, is more expensive, but the doors that we've had in place that are storefront doors that are used a lot, and those are doors that we're looking to put keyless entry on. An airport arena is a good example where those doors were just falling apart after how long has the arena been there? 7, 8 years, 14 years. So storefront doors start coming apart eventually in the corners. They're just not the best quality. So we're looking to go back and replace those storefront doors with an FRP panel door, which is a fiberglass door that's much more durable. We've already done that at the arena and the airport. So our recommendation includes replacing those storefront doors at the areas where we would install this new hardware and keyless entry. So our recommendation is to approve the contract to A3 Communications in the amount of $39,812.03.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept administration's recommendation for the plan as presented for both the Creative Arts Academy keyless entry trial.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Question. How many doors across the district are going to have to replace at $40,000 a door?
It's 2 sets of doors, isn't it?
Well, we really thought that we were going to, the most expensive place we thought would be Airport High School. So we went to Airport High School and we worked on that as well. And we think that we've got a plan. It won't be much more than this.
Per school or per door?
We're replacing 3 different doors at Busby. At Airport, we're looking at, was it 5 or 6 doors that we settled on? Of course, Scott, you weren't there.
I wasn't there.
It was, I think it was either 5 or 6 doors that we discussed with the principal and we settled on that we would need to do. Now, in order to do that, we will have to install some security fencing, which is going to have to take place because I don't think there's any way we can really secure that campus and feel comfortable unless we put some fencing, and we'll do decorative type fencing that we were talking about putting in that stadium at 4 different locations.
Okay, so this $40,000 at Busby, does that include all 3 doors, or is that?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're talking about $13,000 a door.
We're going to get you a price for the entire district. That will be the next thing that we'll try to bring to you on in February. So we're going to be going around and trying to work that up. We just wanted to kind of make sure we worked through the process and we kind of settled in on what we thought was the best system.
Thank you.
How does this locking system work instead of the rod? This is a deadbolt locking system across the 2 doors, or how?
Yeah, so, I think what they're trying to do is more crash bars.
Yes.
So,
The hardware will be basically the same panel.
yeah, so it'll be more of a crash bar, and it'll be door specific. The concern with the mag locks, I mean, with mag locks, you do have to have two forms of egress because one is tied into the actual S2 system, access control system, and then in case, it's kind of a life safety because the mag locks have constant power on them. And the door hardware that we're proposing, I mean, that stays, it doesn't have constant power on it. So with mag lock has constant power, if for some reason the servers go down or anything like that, you still have to have an egress out. That's why the push button is needed. That's why you need with mag lock, you have to have 2 forms of egress. The crash bar, it allows for free egress out at all times, and it's a lot more durable, especially at the main entry doors and the doors I believe that we are quoting.
The difference is basically the electronics, or the electrification takes place at the lock level.
Yes.
Which is down at where the panic bars are with the system that we're choosing. Also, the keyless entry is a part of that hardware on the door. So you present your card, which will be our identification cards throughout the district for our employees. You present your card, and then you have like 4 or 5 seconds to turn the lever or with the front latch. So
So it allows for free egress out, you have to be granted access by the system to come back in. And I believe in that number is the system itself as well, which I'm looking at.
yes, we're also putting in the ability, two-way communication, which is an A-phone system that will be outside the front entrance door for guests after the doors are locked down. Now, this system will be programmed so that, let's say on Monday through Friday, on the days that we're in school, an administrator comes up and presents the card to start this system in place. It will automatically unlock, say from 7 o'clock until 8:10, that front door will be unlocked while all the traffic's coming through. Then at 8:10, let's say if that's what time we choose, it automatically locks itself down. And then at that point, someone to gain entrance would have to go over to the
It's the video intercom, it's the A-phone system. It's a video intercom system that ties into it as well.
push the button. There's a little camera there. The people inside, we're putting 4 of those. We're putting one at the parenting station, one at the receptionist station, one at the bookkeeper's desk, and one at the principal's desk.
So they can see who's outside.
They can see and they can communicate to those folks. Let's say if it's after hours, everybody's gone except the principal. The principal can determine if there's a parent out there upset because their child, they don't know where the child is, the principal would be able to be accessible. They could go out and talk to the parent. So,
Isn't there a card that's also, that some people will have and just automatically flash that card in that box?
not with that box.
There will be a card reader out there as well.
It's on lock.
It's a battery reader, yeah. So, but the A-phone system, it'll give the capability to kind of follow on what you were talking about. It gives an extra added form of security to the school itself. So what Don was talking about is they got time specs on these doors. That's what he was talking about. So you can have the door scheduled, right? Most of your traffic is coming in between 7:45 and 8, so you can set the doors to unlock at a certain time. And then at, say, 8:15 is when traffic slows down, school's in session, the doors will automatically lock back. That A-phone system will be basically the first form of communication between somebody in the office and, somebody, a visitor coming to the school. And it gives you video and it gives you two-way communication, so, it gives you verification that that person is safe to come to the school.
Does it also record?
Yes.
So it
Yes,
records the badge number or whatever, goes in, out, what time?
Yes,
Okay.
those that got entry and those that didn't.
Yeah, so another thing with the system from a management standpoint of the access control system, everybody who has a badge, as a staff member, it puts a time stamp on every time somebody goes through it. There's different access levels as well, so you're giving people certain access to certain locations in the schools. You can see when somebody that has tried to get in a door that they're not supposed to, things like that. There's also a feature that's called a lockdown feature. So this is, of course, the worst case scenario, something we hope will never ever happen, but we'll install a push button underneath the desk, the receptionist as well. And there's also a magic monitor that comes with it. But there's in the case of a situation like that, you can hit the push button and lock all the doors down where nobody's card will work except a designated card that I'm sure the SRO will have, or a key. Principals, yeah.
Key will still work. And
a key, yeah, key will always work. Minus situations where there's a mag lock because it's just got constant. But going back to the crash bars too, the crash bars, like I said, they're very durable. As much traffic as coming in and out of the schools, they're one of the most durable locks. So
Mr. Booth?
So the crash bar, is it electrified crash bar or is it electrified strike?
Well, I will say, I haven't been on the walkthroughs. Tristan does a lot of our design. I believe he's been walking through it. It's going to be door specific. The doors that get the most traffic, I would assume, in my experience, are going to be crash bars. They are, like I said, they're a lot more durable. It's going to be free egress. So,
Well, I mean, but is it the stripe that's electrified, or you're actually
No,
going
the crash bar itself
is going to pull in whenever
Yes, sir.
you engage?
Yes, sir. So there's actually power that goes to a solenoid or a motor, and I think most of the time you do a QEL, which is quiet. So there's actually power that's supplied to the crash bar itself. On egress, I mean, you just hit the crash bar as normal, and you exit the school. On ingress, you swipe the badge, and it will trigger the lock to pull in.
And the reason we chose that is we have, most of our doors have removable mullions, and we can't bring the wiring down. We can, but you risk the wires being broken if that mullion is ever taken out. So we've chosen to basically go the route of electrifying the lock or the crash bar itself.
Mr. Eisenhower, why are you having to put a fence at the airport around these doors that are?
Not the doors. It'll be in the courtyard areas, basically to try to.
Areas, I thought you were
Yes.
saying you were having to put them around some doors.
No. What we're trying to do, we were trying to figure out how to install this system where they go out of one building into another building. And our concern was that people would, because it, the way we'll set this up is it will unlock, say 2 minutes before the bell rings. Excuse me, and lock itself back, say 3 minutes after the bell rings. There's a potential for a student to get stuck in those courtyards and can't get one way or the other. So we were going to have to install A-phones on each of those doors to try to make sure they would be able to buzz the office and get through. You think about that, that's a lot of work for somebody in the office to be trying to figure out the students going from place to place. So the principal wanted to keep those doors open. In order for us to do that, then we would have to make sure we have security fencing, like at the
Do you
stadium.
think that that would be the only school that you may have to do that with? Maybe Fulmer?
BC, possibly Fulmer, I think will be pretty much all going through hallways. BC, I think we're going to have some issues there, but we'll just have to kind of look at it with the principal and work through it.
Thank you.
Mr. Bain?
The card reader system,
Yes, sir.
is it open Wiegand style or is it proprietary?
It's 26-bit Wiegand, but the security of the cards has changed dramatically. So there's one thing. So you're getting I-class cards. So it's the third tier. It's third tier security on this card. So they are. I mean, it is a thing of as the proximity cards are kind of the lowest, and then your, like I said, your I-class cards are up. So they are very secure cards. I mean, it's 26-bit Wiegand, but you are given a facility code that is going to be specific to your district, and then you'll be provided numbers within.
It's not proprietary, though.
Right. Yeah, it's not proprietary.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
There's some where you gotta buy their card, and 10 years from now, we're trying to buy new cards. You don't want to be locked into something.
No, it's not proprietary.
Good questions.
Any other questions?
I just want to say this about the A-phone, and I want to make sure that what the office will have the ability to do also is to zoom in on someone's ID. And they can see that that person is who they say they are before they ever unlock that door. So again, we're just looking at trying to make our schools as safe as possible. All right, thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Thank you.
I just want to clarify that my motion actually encompassed C and D on our new business, that I was making the motion to do the keys, entry, and the doors, so we don't have to have two separate motions.
Okay. All right. I have a motion and I have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item E, and that is the potential change of roof color for Airport High School field house.
Madam Chair, when we put this on the agenda, and Lambert is here, and they're ready to make a presentation, we want to go ahead and show you kind of what we're talking about. But since we put this on the agenda, we have found another supplier that gives us a blue that is the color of airport blue. When we put this on the agenda, the supplier that we were dealing with did not have a color, standard color that was airport blue. So if you are okay with us leaving it blue, we really don't have to make this presentation, so.
All right, well, it needs to be blue.
All right, well, we'll just move on then.
All right.
Sounds good. Glad to do that. All right, next item on the agenda is item F, and that is consideration of airport high school guaranteed maximum price.
Madam Chair, we have with us today John Farley with Contract Construction, and the guaranteed maximum price that he's going to be presenting to you tonight is for all of the internal work that has been designed for Airport High School. This was what we're calling phase 2 of the work. The field house was for phase 1. The last phase will be the exterior work, which will be around the stadium track and all of that work. So the price that we're going to give you, and the reason we're not giving you the price for all of it is we're still working on designs for that outside portion.
Thank you, Don. Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. James. As Don mentioned, the GMP we'd like to present tonight will be for $2,919,997 for the work that's been previously described to you.
Madam Chair, we'd like to recommend that we approve the contract to Contract Construction to do all the interior work at Airport High School in the amount of $2,919,997.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to accept the recommendation of administration to approve the GMP as presented.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Giles.
And I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Branham?
I realize why you're dividing it up, but do you feel as if the percentage of work that encompasses keeps us within where the percentage would be that we already kind of have allocated for those projects?
Well, as with every project we've had to make decisions on what we can afford to do and what we can't afford to do. What this will do, we've got an estimated budget for the remaining portion of the exterior work to be done, and that will leave us a little over $2 million to do the final phase of roofing and HVAC replacement. And the principal also indicates that he wants some remodeling of the 100 hall, which is that round portion of that building. And really what he wants is he wants better soundproofing in between the two classrooms. So that is one of the things that we're going to try to incorporate in this work as well.
Is that what they refer to as Building C?
Is that building C, Luke? I don't think it is it?
No, sir, it's, I've always.
100 wing.
That's a 100 wing Chevy.
What is Building C?
Where is building C? Where are you on your scope
It's
summary?
right here, and it's the last part of your scope for GMP scope summary for airport. Remove or replace select electrical panel throughout the overhaul building. Remove and replace HVAC systems, renovate area of Building C. Renovate, replace fire sprinkler systems, renovate area in Building C. Is Building C the old 100 hall?
No, ma'am, I think it's actually referring to how we divided up the campus for our sheet numbering. And so Building C, I believe, would actually refer to the culinary arts, where the arts classroom is going and the special needs classroom. It's, apologize for confusion, but that's how we divide up our sheets. That's the only way I know of it being called Building C.
So Building C is the culinary area?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the answer to your question is it will leave us with some money left over to do the roofing, the HVAC for the last phase of that work as far as roofing, which we're going to probably do either this summer or next summer in conjunction with this work on 100 hallway. And then the building is scheduled, we're looking at painting the entire building, so we will have enough money to do all of those. And we're thinking we may have a little bit of money left over out of that $12 million budget.
Is this to include the renovations in the gymnasium or just this one?
The old gym? You're talking about yes.
I'll be glad to go through the list if you like to do that.
That's the locker rooms, and the female, male facilities, all the gym.
Right. Starting with the culinary arts area, that's to be repurposed into special needs classrooms and life skills lab. The existing life skills theater classroom and adjacent classrooms will be repurposed into new art classroom and theater classroom space. And then there will be major demolition and repurposing in the, renovations in the men's locker room and the adjacent men's and women's restrooms.
Where's that adjacent men's and women's restroom there, sir?
That is facing the locker rooms to the right.
There's no women's on that side unless you're coming across from that mini gym. I can't figure out where you're talking about there unless it's the
Luke,
ones
you
you got
got
down by
one?
the ring.
There are two. There's a large locker room and a smaller locker room towards the kind of the north side of the arena that exit directly outside, and the laundry's to the left. And I don't know what they're used for. On the plans, they're called boys and girls. Our intent is to make a boys' locker room and a girls' locker room. Also code-compliant bathrooms, and then also restrooms that you can access from the gymnasium without going into the locker rooms for events. And also if you just don't want your students going back in the locker rooms.
So are you going to renovate the girls' locker room, which is on the backside of Gym B? Mini gym. Why is that going to be wasted space? Why is that not being refurbished and used? We should be saving the new arena and keeping it in excellent shape.
What they're going to do is turn one of the boys' restrooms over to the female off the gym floor, the old gym floor. That's what they're doing.
Yes, we try to consolidate our renovations to one area that we can focus on and have a lot of impact. We're able to fit a men's and women's locker room for a PE class size or wrestling and volleyball, and fit that in that area without having to renovate multiple areas.
But you have two full-size dressing rooms and a bathroom commode shower area in between those two dressing rooms.
It basically comes down to the budget. I mean, what we're trying to do is we're trying to fix the, I guess, the old gym so that we can use that for competition. We're going to go in and refinish those bleachers and everything, so it's going to be good enough so that we could use that if we wanted to for competition. I mean, we can go in and do that if there's money left, and we do anticipate that there will be some money left over. We could go back and do some of that before we leave
The
it.
work needed there is basically to replace the stalls that are broken, but the rooms are in excellent shape. And that puts the separation completely between where the girls dress and where the boys dress. I just think it's not looking at that whole facility.
Madam Chairman, have we seen any drawings of this? Because, I mean, I'm confused as to, now I'm even more confused than I was when I read this.
What they're going to do in that main floor of the old gym.
Do we have anything like a little?
We have presented the plans. It's been a while, but I do not have a presentation.
Not so specifically for the gym.
Do you want us to bring you a presentation on this?
I mean, I definitely don't want to see this project delayed because I know we're on a timetable on all of our buildings, but I mean, if we held off until we saw plans with that delay it that much.
When did you plan to start this construction?
February 20th.
We can have a building. Because they can't go to the gym before then anyway. They don't go to the gym.
What kind of impact, John, would that have on you? What kind of impact would it have on you?
To delay it how long?
If the board meets the 26th of February.
Well, our intent was to finish the renovation by August 1st before we started the phase 2 renovations, because as you mentioned earlier, not the time yet.
If we announce
But it could be.
Gymnasium area was going to be, you're going to go in that area?
The end of
Yes, ma'am. We're gonna meet, we're planning on meeting Monday.
How's this
The
going to
principal
affect
and
the
staff.
certification classes?
Mr. Coleman is aware, and he's indicated he will work around everything that they want to do inside the building. So we're just, again, we're trying to get it done as quickly as we can.
It's more renovation work than we can do in one time.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, are we having a meeting the first?
Yeah, we are. I'm going to stop this right now. We'll do a special meeting and bring us the plans so we can vote the first week in February on this, so we do not hold them up at all and get started. If I'm correct, you said February 20th is when you plan on starting. If we vote on this the first week in February, will be good for them to still begin? Is that correct? Are we good with that? Yes?
ma'am.
Yes, okay. That's what we're going to do. Okay. Thank you.
To clarify, what date will that be?
February 2nd. Does that work for everybody?
I'm being reminded that that may be the night of the BC High School Foundation.
It is. That will work.
We could go early. We could do it early. We can make it work.
Week in the afternoon.
Okay.
Midday, late afternoon.
Okay. We'll make it work.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
John, that'll be somewhere in the afternoon.
Sorry.
Big one?
Sorry.
Somewhere in the afternoon. It won't be a night.
Anytime after 3 o'clock.
Okay. Next is item G, approval of demolition of Motel 6.
Madam Chair, once again, we've been working to give you prices to, we've done the asbestos abatement. We finished that, we walked through on that yesterday. The companies doing that work will have to give us a certificate indicating that that work is done before we can pull permits. But we've had Thompson Turner working on getting pricing to do the demolition. We provided you with some information in our workshop on the 3 different pricing schemes that we had. And it is our recommendation that you approve the demolition contract of guaranteed maximum price of $339,898 to Thompson Turner for the demolition work at the motel adjoining Brooklyn Casey High School.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept administration's recommendation to approve the guaranteed maximum price for the demolition of Motel 6 as proposed.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item H, that is approval of Springdale Elementary School project.
Madam Chair, we have Boomerang Design with us tonight to give a short presentation on the schematics for Springdale Elementary. We also have MB Con that will be giving you the estimated budget for that project.
Madam Chair, Dr. James, members of the board, I'm Rob with Boomerang Design. On behalf of our team, we are very grateful and extremely excited to share with you a virtual tour we've proposed to share with you or present to you the additions and renovations at Springdale Elementary School. So if my counterpart Rob would hit the play button. Within the context of the site plan, that orange arrow will be a reference for several points during the presentation. That's front and center of the new administration, reception, new entrance to the school, other areas of yellow there, the new addition, and then the tan or brown to the left is the existing school. The new parking lot front right and new service back right, play fields in Cindy's Place there in the rear with Winding Road in the front. Now the aerial view Again, with that flagpole, you can see it there in front of the new front door. That's the new administration reception wing. The other higher roof to the right is the cafeteria. We'll tour both of those spaces in here in a minute. And then the existing school is more in the distance. This is on the ground in the new parking lot and automobile drop-off. Again, that flagpole is right at the new entrance. That is the administration reception area. And then the higher roof you're getting a glimpse of there is the clear story within the new cafeteria. And we'll tour both of those spaces on the interior here in a moment. Plan-wise, again, that orange area is at the front door with the reception, administrative suite, yellow being the corridors, the tan, brownish is the existing school to the left, and then the additions to the right are the pre-K classrooms, cafeteria, kitchen, automobile drop and parking lot is the right lower, and the new service to the kitchen and bus loop is the top right. Walking into the new front door in the reception area, get a sense of the windows for daylighting and visibility, the volume of the space, the scale, and then adjacent to the reception area is a nice conference room for the suite as well. We're now heading down the hall into the new cafeteria building. To the left, you'll see as you enter platform area for performances and other variety of uses. And now as we pan and kind of circulate through the space, you get a sense of the scale, the finishes. Again, it's got a wonderful location right on the front for, again, with glazing windows for visibility and daylighting. The reference of this plan is the wing to the lower part is where the existing admin and media center are. Those will be converted into 4 new classrooms. And the wing out the back, as you probably know, is an existing cafeteria kitchen that will get totally transformed into a new media center area. And now within a tour of the new media center, there's computer stations, larger groups, individual areas, use of color in the furnishings and accents. All the systems will be totally replaced with new lighting, new mechanical, new infrastructure, new power. Here's a sort of a synopsis. The 2 upper pictures are the exterior views, and then the lower right, going clockwise around, being the media center, cafeteria, and new reception. So again, we're very grateful, very excited. Springdale has a very rich history, it's a great community, and we're very honored to be a part of transforming the facilities so that what is already an exceptional educational environment can be further elevated. So.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. King?
I didn't see anything what you're doing with the existing building. What's going on in all the existing classrooms that was brown in that color there?
Yeah, all the 18 classrooms in the 1966 building, all the old chalkboards and tackboards and stuff be pulled out. Old casework will be pulled out, and they'll all get new marker boards, new tack boards, teacher wardrobes. So they'll be, refreshed quite nice.
Casework in all classrooms?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
On the outside, last time you had paint in the windows and you had awnings over each window.
No, we're not.
Awnings still in, they're out now?
Yes, sir. At the feedback, we're not going to do the eyebrows that existing building will hang, on the outside. Very modest like it is.
Question on the interior as far as the existing building, electrical, plumbing, updates, upgrades, that kind of stuff in the old section of the building?
Yes, sir.
What we got going on there?
Yeah, and generally, you can remember the school as you come in the administration wing now, go through that wing. We'll call that the T, or the heart of the facility. As we said, that front gets totally gutted and renovated into classrooms, creating a new staff toilet where that intersection comes together. And then the old tired, if you will, gang toilets that flank the cafeteria, they're totally gutted and redone. And then, as we said, the cafeteria kitchen totally redone into a new media center. So then within the T out, the Marbury units, some very problematic, there's been a number identified to be replaced, but others, there's non-current defaults if there be allowance, so that as they need to be replaced over time, that can be done as well. So,
can you go back over the parking area also? Are we eliminating all the road parking there? Everybody's going to be off of Wapping?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's because the proximity to the road now is really bad, so the new entrance will be back from the road, and then we'll call it front right as a new automobile drop, and then the parking will be expanded over on the church side of the street.
And you taking into consideration Cindy's place out back, parking for
Yes,
that
sir.
area too?
Yes, sir. It'll be respected.
Is it planned for 2 pickups, pickup in the front, pickup on the side?
And bus drop off over here on the other side by the cafeteria. Now, we'll have to say that all of that's pending approval of HOA in Parish Pond, and I met with them last night. They're going to actually meet with, they have an association meeting next week, I think. And we should hear back from them on whether or not they're going to be in favor of us using Parish Pond for our bus loop and faculty only. And last night it was very favorable, so we'll just have to see how it turns out.
You were going to let us know how much that road would cost if we went in by Parish Pond. Do you have a cost on that?
Yes, I do. You're talking about fixing the punch list?
No, upgrading the road.
Upgrading the road, and because it may be cost inhibitive for us to do that.
No, ma'am, that's our best option.
Still want to know the dollar amount.
Do you have anything addressed for the exterior of the existing building? What are you doing there?
The doors and those panels are being replaced and, treated to blend, if you will.
So each classroom will still have a door with that.
And the power washing will be outside.
No, ma'am, we were never power washing. We were chemically cleaning the bricks at one time, and we're going to do all that we can to try to, in the areas that need to be addressed. But painting is going to help it tremendously.
Was it glass from the floor to the ceiling in the administrative wing in the cafeteria? Is it glass from the floor to ceiling?
There, in some places, but there are some solid walls too.
That's actually an area that we've talked about. We've talked about creating more space, especially in that admin area, so that we can do more displays. And I've actually talked to them about whether or not we want to do all of that glass. We tend to have a lack of area to do display cases, trophies, and student work, artwork, historical type things. So that's something that we're going to work through as we progress. But
Have a cleaning crew, which I clean them.
yes, and I will say, and Bill, you correct me if I'm wrong, because we've kicked this tire down the road a while, or can, but at one time we had, I think, $400,000 in there as an allowance for road work.
I don't remember the exact figure, but we do have adequate dollars in there to do the road work.
So we're hoping to save some of that.
So as far as road work, we basically talking 2-inch asphalt on top, new curb and gutter, and possibly a turn lane.
SCDOT has not required us to do a turn lane. That's something the homeowners association has also mentioned. There are a lot of things that would have to be worked out before we would say yes on something like that, because we don't know what kind of right of way exists there. There are a lot of questions about that. So I'm hesitant to commit to a turning lane at this point in time. Now, Springdale's also on board. As you know, there's a punch list, and part of what we've talked to Springdale about is partnering with them in order to have access to use that Parish Pond access of trying to help them address those punch list items in that neighborhood so that road can be turned over to the county, which would obviously benefit us in the long run as well.
All right, and one more question. This school will receive access
Yes.
doors too?
All of our schools will
All
be getting
of them will
access,
be access.
keyless entry.
Good evening, it's my turn to speak. Good evening, pleasure to be here. We're working within a budget of $10.7 million for this project, and at this point, we believe we are within that budget. We'll be receiving updated drawings in the near future for the next phase of estimating, and be reporting back to you sometime probably the next 60 days with an update on the budget. But we believe the project is within the allocated funds at this time.
Are we on schedule, assuming we get approval from OSF? We'll start as soon as the kids get out, so we can get this done in 1 year.
Yes, sir, that is the plan.
If we're not ready to open it back up in June, so that we can move Springdale out of Davis, we're going to have a hard time moving Fulmer into Davis. So, yes, sir, we're going to work
We can
really
start
hard.
this somewhere we will have to know.
I just had one suggestion, more not a question, but a suggestion, and a lot of this came up, is I think not only the school, the community doesn't realize what's going to happen with the rest of the school. The big new shiny stuff is great, but administration, teachers, that kind of stuff are saying, well, what about the classroom that I'm in, which has been here since 1960, so maybe some better communication.
Yeah, I think Mr. Bingham hit it about as well as anybody. I mean, bricks brick and blocks block, and basically we're going to go back in and give them as close to the new school as we can give them without tearing it down.
Sure. But that needs to be communicated, I think, better from the community and school staff standpoint too, because they're going, okay, the new auditorium or new cafeteria is great, but what about the old classroom and then what's going to happen here? So, sounds like you guys are already doing it, people just don't know it.
Yeah.
So, appreciate it.
Is it safe to say that they're going to feel like it's a totally brand new school?
Absolutely.
We even, there's glazed green block in the hallways, which everybody's, it's out of style. And they wanted to paint it. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not convinced that it can be done, so we sent our painting consultant out there, and he says it can be done, and if he tells me it can be done, I'm on board. So we're even going to get rid of those old dull gray or green glazed block. So, yes, sir, I think they're going to be very pleased when we leave there. And we're going to try to replace any HVAC units that are giving any issues or problems, and any that are due to be replaced. Those that are still within their life cycle, we would probably not replace those unless money is available to do that. Madam Chair, we'd like to recommend that we approve of this project and allow these folks to proceed with DD and CD design work.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve administration's recommendation to approve the project as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Key. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Based on your approval, we're going to leave with Don rendering it for be a nice compliment to the lobby here, the overview, and then we'll leave him did any of you who selected some still shots to leave with Don and he can share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Hammond?
Don, can you email us some pictures of the new rendering?
We can send electronic to him.
So we just got them in case people ask. Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is honor consideration of keyless entry proposal for Casey Elementary School.
Madam Chair, we'd like to combine item I and J for Casey Elementary. The because we've been looking at exploring our options, and we would like to, since we've given cameras to A3 throughout the district, we'd like to go in and approve for them to do the cameras in that building, and we'd like to also approve for them to do the keyless entry in that building as well. And the amount for doing both of those is $268,295.
Make a motion to accept administration's recommendation to approve the keyless entry proposal for Casey Elementary School and the security cameras.
I have a motion, to have a second? Second by Mr. King, any discussion?
I do have a question. So that was not something that was included in the price of the new?
So, ma'am, what we do typically is we ask the contractor to provide the raceway, and most districts have their own choices of who they want to do data drops. And we usually have a vendor that we kind of have on board that we do all of that work, that would do all that for us. So we've been working to try to create those vendors and trying to establish the right pathway to go. And we're there with everything, I think, except the next item, which we're going to ask to remove off of the agenda.
Any further discussion? All right, I have a motion first and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. If I'm not mistaken, we're going to remove item K until next.
We'll plan to bring you something with that. Maybe even February 2nd.
Okay.
We'll bring that back, Madam Chairman, under old business.
Okay. All right, next item is item L, consideration of request for overnight or out-of-state student travel.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consideration of request for overnight out-of-state student travel.
I have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Thank you, Mr. Hinton.
I love to see if Jim actually ground before you do that. It's kind of neat to watch him.
All right, next item on the agenda is administrative divisional reports. Item A is superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. We have a basic calendar here with students returning to school on August the 22nd. That's in keeping with the state regs requiring that students not return to school before the third Monday in August, and I'm sure you all are aware of that with the Myrtle Beach thing and child labor and all that goes on there. This year, that's a really unique situation because this is as late as it can possibly be, because Tuesday is the first, so we're over into the latter part, actually the fourth week of August. In addition to that, August the 21st this year, there is going to be an eclipse that coming all the way across the United States. This is the premier spot in the nation to see it. So supposedly there's going to be 1 million visitors to this area. The eclipse is going to be somewhere between 2 and 4, which means we would be letting out of school in the dark with 1 million folks here. In this first calendar, you can see we have chosen to make that 21st a teacher work day, an in-service day. We've also included a calendar that is not accurate. There has been talk about the fact that the General Assembly would forgive the third Monday ruling. We developed a calendar based on the second Monday. But what was presented to the legislature today was the possibility of an August 17th start. So right now, the board is, I mean, you guys have been doing this for a long time. You know, you got a date on which you can start by law. You got to have 180 days for kids. You got to have 190 days for teachers. There's certain holidays that have to be in there. We've got 3 weather makeup days that are totally unrelated to anything else. So barring no bad weather, you get a long Memorial Day weekend, you get a day in March, you get an extra day of spring break. If there is bad weather, flood, hurricane, fire, I don't know that there are any natural disasters we hadn't covered in the 2 years I've been here, but barring no unforeseen natural disasters, those are unrelated days. Obviously, we would like to start back as early as we can. If we can get the 17th, that would be great. Gets us out of school a little bit early, but right now, the first calendar is in keeping with South Carolina law, makes all the requirements. We'll shoot it out to staff and start to get some feedback. We're not asking you to vote on it, we're just kind of showing you what we're thinking. Mr. Bingham, you've got a question, I can see.
Yeah, I mean, you got an A, you got a B that you can't do because that's the legislative action we're gonna take in order to do anything in regard to B. But A's got us going all the way to June the 8th.
Right.
We need to move that back out of, I mean, going into halfway into June is just not.
Well, and that's the whole piece of it, as far as being able to start the week before. And that's the argument across the state, because the state reg is that you can't begin school before the third Monday in August. And with Tuesday being the 1st of August, the third Monday couldn't be later. There's no way it could ever be later than it is this year. So, man.
Well, I mean, if we back up things, you know, okay, the 21st, if we can't go let out in the dark, okay, we go a half day and we capture the 21st. And then we move spring break instead of the whole week after Easter and Good Friday off the day before, we move to the week of Easter so that Good Friday's encompassed, and that just moved it up 2 days. Then all we gotta do is find one more day, and we move at least where the kids is out on Friday, June the 1st, and out of school.
And we can move the kid days around to where we've got teacher in service days, but we're still gonna get teachers out at the same time. If we go 190 days from August 15th, they're still gonna get out 190 days later.
There's something very inviting about draft B, and that is that school semester ends on December the 20th, and the kids have exams prior to Christmas, rather than coming back after Christmas 2 weeks, and then having to be faced with exams. I hate to say it, that's beautiful for the teachers and for the kids.
And it is. I mean, in an ideal situation, we would be able to start much earlier. And we got information from SCASA today, Best Field sent out, felt like that there was favorable response from the members of the general meeting you talked to. But right now, you know, we can't begin school before the third Monday in August as it stands without legislative action.
Is there a chance that legislation will change within the next several weeks that we?
Well, that's what we're hearing. That's what that's the reason we gave you this, is because Beth Fields, who is the director of SCASA, sent out something today saying that the General Assembly was making favorable gestures.
So we don't need, why would we put this out, period? Why can't we just hold this off on this for another month and then put it out so that we don't send mixed messages?
That's fine. You know, my intent is just let the board know we're working on a calendar. I've had several board members ask about it. I've had several board members ask about, well, what are you going to do about days when we have hurricanes, floods, whatever? Well, we're going to make them up, but we're going to make them up on days that are not connected to holidays.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I agree with Ms. Cindy Kessler on that, but I would like that when you do bring us back something, that we do end up giving at least 2 or 3 choices to the teachers, because it's very helpful that we can always say, which we always have done, is we've always approved the calendar y'all bring back to us, and you say all the teachers voted for it. This board has never picked the other calendar. And so it's real important for us to be able to say that. So when you do bring us back, you know, at least bring us a couple options.
So what you want is a calendar that is voted on by
Usually what we usually send it out to the teachers, and what the teachers do, we've done this all the time.
They vote on A, B. For example, they would vote on A or B here.
You present it, they vote on the.
They would get an A or B calendar, it goes out to like their teacher on your teacher council, and then they usually take the votes for their school, and they bring them to the, district office and say, this one won by this much, this one won by this much.
They have a choice. They have.
Or if you have an alternate way to do that, if you will just let us know that when you bring the next suggestion. But that's one good way that helps everybody feel like they have an input into it too. Especially if we're looking at going until June 8th or whatnot.
Okay. All right. So we will have that at the next meeting. All right. Next item is instruction, strategic plan.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James. Tonight, I'm going to give you some brief information regarding where we are with the strategic planning process. As you're aware, we will receive an advanced ed visit in March of 2018. We are 1 year ahead of our advanced ed visit as our new 5-year strategic plan is due April 30th of this year. I'm not going to talk so much about the content of the strategic plan tonight, as I will email or have Ms. Bickley email that link to you tomorrow, so you will have the entire document. What we gave you was a brief synopsis or summary page in your packet, but the entire strategic plan document is about 80 pages. So I wanted to go over the highlights tonight so you'll know what areas to look for. We will email the link or make copies for you tomorrow, and then we can discuss in February. But in March, I will need approval from the board for our strategic plan. I do also want it noted in the minutes that at this point in time, what you will see out to our public and what you will receive tomorrow does not address the reading plan portion of it. We are still waiting on guidance from the State Department regarding the reading plan. So hopefully what you approve in March will have the reading plan portion in it. I also want to bring to your attention that those of you that have had the privilege of going through the advanced ed process with us, you will know it's about the process. And one thing that they ask over and over and over again, did you involve your constituents? Did you involve the families? Did you involve the teachers? Did you involve the parents? Did you involve the community members? So that's what I'm going to kind of focus on tonight, the involvement of our community. As you know, the strategic plan that you will hopefully approve in March will be extended through 2021. Okay. What you will see coming before you, I hope, are some documents to show to you that we have tried to include our community members, our administrators. What you see there will be agendas of meetings that we have had to date with our principals, with our assistant principals. You will see that we've met with our superintendent parent advisory councils twice, and they have provided feedback to us on the strategic plan. This is a wordle that we actually engaged our parents in on last Wednesday, and we, before we introduced the strategic plan to them, we said, where do you want, or what do you want to see from Lexington School District 2 in the next 5 years? And so they actually texted that information to us, and you can kind of see some of the broad themes or terms that they came up with. So once they came up with these broad themes or terms, then we actually gave them the strategic plan and said, okay, let us highlight for you where we think that we have addressed these areas that you have brought before us. We hope that you receive media notification through Facebook, through Twitter, through your newsletters, through the webpage, that our strategic plan is out there for feedback, and there's a Survey Monkey that you can go in and actually provide feedback. You will see that several tweets have gone out about it. That's our Facebook page announcement, and Mr. Ward actually sent it out across the state yesterday. It showed up in the state outlet that went out. So everyone knows that we are trying to get information regarding our strategic plan. This is our proposed vision, which we have shared with you before, so I'm not going to read that to you. Our proposed mission, and our proposed beliefs. We have tried to ground our strategic plan in the profile of the South Carolina graduate, which you know has been endorsed by state legislators, by business and industry, by the State Board of Education, by the South Carolina Department of Education. And I'm just going to show or highlight a few snippets of some of our action steps, which we think address the profile of the South Carolina graduate. With regards to world-class knowledge, here are some of the strategies and action steps that you will find as you read the document embedded. For example, to incorporate computer science applications into instruction at all levels. Our plan calls for us, starting in the elementary levels, to start offering computer science coursework. Also, to expand our STEM opportunities, increase enrollment in Gateway to Technology. What we're meaning right there is you're aware that we have Gateway to Technology courses at Fulmer and we have Gateway to Technology courses at Pine Ridge. But the two feeder schools, the BC High School, which is actually the Quest and the STEM programs, the I2 Tech, are heavily laden in Project Lead the Way. So we really need Gateway to Technology courses at Busby and at Northside. So that's what we mean there. We are trying to enhance our district's world language offerings to foster world-class knowledge and skills. And a part of our vision is we would like to see world languages included in our elementary schools. Provide opportunities to earn college credits through advanced placement courses, dual enrollment, and early college. You're aware that we have a robust relationship with Midlands Technical College, but we'll be meeting with USC Sumter next either Monday or Tuesday, and Dr. James has been in constant conversation with USC Columbia about expanding that for 2017 in August. So we're really excited about that. With regards to world-class skills, providing professional development on relevant digital learning opportunities for students utilizing one-to-one technology. We're so grateful to you all for allowing us to go one-to-one, but what we're finding is that we're kind of all over the place with the implementation of the one-to-one. And I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. We have some folks that are really, really good, and we have some that it's still a growth opportunity for us. So we realize from this level that we've got to go out there and coach them to ensure that we don't have these materials just sitting on shelves, that they're being utilized properly to convey curriculum. Provide opportunities for students to use technology to develop and demonstrate inquiry skills. That's just your research. Develop students' technological acumen, enabling them to select appropriate technologies and resources. And what we mean by that is we're not always talking about a device. A pencil is a tool. A compass is a tool. A calculator is a tool. They need to be able to know when to utilize the appropriate tool to achieve the task. And provide professional development to enhance conceptual understanding and build internal capacity to foster mathematical best practices. And some things that we have outlined in our plan there will be to use some of our Title II funds, we hope, to offer math boot camps for our teachers during the summer, or to offer graduate level coursework in mathematics, because that is an area for growth for us, for our teachers, to develop teacher leaders in mathematics. And that's just a snippet of some world-class skills. And then you have the life and career characteristics portion of the profile. Some of our action steps here include supporting student self-promotion for prospective scholarship, apprenticeships, job opportunities. We are going to talk with you in a few minutes about something we've just introduced to our high schools called STEM Premier. Incorporate culturally responsive curriculum resources and strategies. Expanding opportunities for industry, recognizing our certifications through our CAPE programs. And providing opportunities for students to connect with and gain hands-on experience from practitioners in the community. And some examples that we've included in the plan here is that we need to develop a robust directory of our business partners. We feel like we have good business partners who are really supportive of the district, but we're not talking about just financial support here. We're talking about identifying a group of mathematicians that if we're working on a math project-based learning or problem-based learning, we can call upon Mr. Eisenhower because math is his background and he can come and talk with the children. Or developing a list of engineers and scientists and things of that nature, biologists. Continue and expand our school counselor and career specialist involvement to include soft skills training. We have spoke with Anna. I don't know if you saw in the statewide newspaper yesterday where they talked about the expansion of Nephron. And in that photo, it was our children who actually took a tour of Nephron. So that was really exciting. So those are the kind of things that we're hoping to expand upon. Ms. Coleman is going to kind of talk with you about STEM Premier.
So for those of you that are familiar with LinkedIn, STEM Premier is kind of the school version of LinkedIn. It kind of grew out of the South Carolina Manufacturers Alliance and originated there, but it's grown to other businesses and industries. And we got in on a pilot, our district did, so our schools, both high schools, got the dashboard for free, which is where principals and counselors and teachers have access to the kids' profiles and they can see who's created one, what it looks like, run reports based on test scores, interest, colleges, those kinds of things. So the kids go in, they create their profile, and you can see where they can put in their GPAs. They can put in, if they've taken the ACT, work keys, their scores. They put what they're interested in, if they're planning on going to a 2-year college or a 4-year college. Then that gives a pipeline for universities, technical schools, and potential employers to reach out to our kids and find them based on things they're interested in. So it really is a seamless transition between the two. And as they retake tests, they can go and update it. It is free for us at this point. Once it's 5 years, it's about a $1,200 cost district-wide. Kids as early as 8th grade can use it and go in and create their profiles. And then it stays with them for life. So once they graduate and they go to college, they can change their status to a high school graduate, and see where they are and update it. So it really is just a great way for them to connect themselves to employers, colleges, that kind of thing.
Okay. And so again, you have this document. Again, it's just a summary of the entire strategic plan. And so in moving forward, as stated earlier, we will accept any feedback from you all in February that you would like for us to revisit regarding strategic planning. And then we will bring to you the final, hopefully, document in March for approval. At this time, I will entertain any questions.
Any questions? Just a comment, would you do away with grad point?
Well, we have to have something, so.
I know, but when you start a class, it's going to go through here, and every time I see that, I just think we just cheats those kids out of an education they're entitled to by letting them go into grad point. When you start a school year with 125 kids already enrolled in grad point, it just seems like we're basically cheating to get around so that we can put that we're going to be 90%, 95%, which is what you're trying to achieve. It just seems like it's just a cheap way of cheating and getting past that obstacle. I just don't like the concept at all. You said you didn't need it in the past, but I see we still use it and we don't seem to indicate that we're going to do away with it. So,
well, we have to have some type of credit recovery model.
I think that's what they call summer school, but that's what they used to. But anyway, and with the opportunities that they have to take the courses throughout the year, and for 4 years, they've got time in the next year.
Yes, ma'am.
That's great. And I hear your concerns. I've seen that it can be very beneficial, though, to students. Could we maybe get a presentation for the entire board so that everybody knows exactly what it is?
That'd be fair.
Maybe, an explanation. And then maybe some alternatives.
Yes.
If that's not a good program, if we decide that's not a good program.
And every 2 or 3 years, we do vet several companies or vendors to make sure it is the best option or model for Lexington, but we would be glad to do a presentation on grad point. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. All right, next item is receive finance.
Thank you. I have for you the December financials, first the revenue summary, and I have since received, since printing of this went in your packet, the December collections from the county treasurer. So it was around right at $5 million, a little over $5 million. We can add that to that local source. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on revenue. We also have our expenditures on the next page, if there's no new questions. I think I add just another layer of transparency here on the ideal percent remaining, and that's just, we have 6 months into the year, so half of our budget should be remaining, and I added that column of percent remaining just to kind of give you another layer there. And instead of just a comparison to the prior year, where are we in the current year? So that's our expenditures to date through December. Be happy to answer any questions. Nothing. Next, we have our referendum budgets and total expenditures to date through December as well. As well as our interest earned to date on that same sheet as well. That's all I have for financials, if there's no questions.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Richardson. All right.
I do have one more.
One more?
Oh, yeah. Just the budget calendar is next. Or do we need to take action? We have a budget calendar we've set for fiscal year 17-18. And again, it just aligns with, put in here also how it aligns with the state legislative process, and to give you an idea of kind of what information we get to develop our budget. Again, we'll have a work session in March, and I'll update you in the regular board meetings until we know a little more. We'll usually get House Ways and Means by the 1st of March, so by that March board meeting, we'll have some information.
Ms. Brown?
And Ms. Richardson, my only question on the budget calendar is, instead of like having late March, late April, late May, late June, can we move it up around or up so that we encompass that first Thursday?
Second, yes.
Because I guess, by the third weekend of working, we're already late.
Yeah, so it should really say the early one, yeah. Or if there was, and it's really, I didn't put the specific dates just because it really depends on when we get some information, should something change during that legislative process, but absolutely this is not. We can change those as we hear more information. That's all I have, thank you.
All right, and before we move on, if there's no objection, the financial reports will stand approved as presented. Next item is item D, Administrative and Student Services, Building Progress Report. Mr. Eisenhower.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, I've provided you with several pages of construction update information on Airport High School, and I shared a lot of this stuff with you in the workshop, but there's a breakdown of the fire damage and what contract construction estimated the repairs to be versus what the insurance company made the estimation to be. And there's a significant difference there. We're going to be working with the insurance company to try to reach some sort of settlement on that. One of the things that neither contract construction or I understood was the depreciation factor that they included in there, which was about 14 to 15%. So that's a conversation that we're going to have with those folks and try to figure out how logical that is.
But that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. I thought that was the purpose for having insurance, is to replace. It doesn't seem fair that they would.
I may can address some of that, just from my experience in this world. A lot of times what will happen is you will get a depreciated settlement up front, and then that depreciation is recoverable once the repairs are completed. So that's the discussion you need to have is there recoverable depreciation on the back end? Insurance companies do that to make sure that people actually do the work and they don't just take the money. So I see that all the time in the residential world. There probably is a very similar process in the commercial world. So ask if there is recoverable depreciation factored in. Typically, if you get a full report, like you're looking at the full report from Young and Associates, usually towards the tail end of it, it's going to tell you how much depreciation can be recovered once the work is actually completed.
I've learned something tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Giles. Mr. Bingham.
You have questions?
Are you moving on, or are you?
Yeah, I'm basically just going to ask y'all if y'all have any questions about any information we provided you.
One of the things I want you to check on with the, especially these new schools that we're putting in, I know currently there is a program that SCNG has with educational institutions, government, where if you put in solar panels, they'll pay you 22 cents a kilowatt hour for every hour you generate. But it doesn't cost us but 13 cents a kilowatt hour roughly is what our rate would be. So there's more than enough money saved by what they'll pay you to install solar panels, and then basically after that, then the energy becomes free to you. So they pay you for the energy you generate but put on the grid. You know what I mean? It's a very favorable deal. With all these new facilities, I would think that we should be looking into doing that. Now, there's a cap on it. Once they get so many megawatts of solar power, then they'll quit funding that program. But right now, if we're on the front end and we're in the construction of these schools, I think that needs to be looked at.
Is it something that has to go on the roof, or can it go elsewhere?
Wherever it goes, I mean, it's just solar power. Wherever solar panels you put in, they'll pay you 22 cents a kilowatt hour for every one you generate. So, and they sign a 20-year agreement to do that. So it pays for the installation, plus you get some of the benefit of the power.
And that's with SCNG?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's, the 22 cent only applies to government educational institutions. It doesn't apply to commercial or any of that, but that's a very favorable deal for installation of solar power on these school campuses.
Okay.
So if you would check into that and report back whether we can incorporate any of that into these new buildings especially.
We have to. Any other questions or comments?
Ms. Brown.
I know the schedules are starting to kind of get out there and get released, but and you don't have to go into a long explanation of what y'all are planning to do or anything yet, but I just want to make sure we do have some plans to, rather quickly, since this is starting to get out to some of these elementary school parents, have maybe some meetings set up, either in conjunction with PTA meetings or whatever, these elementary schools, where we start meeting with the parents and going over what our plans are for transitioning their children around for a year. And busing, and what we're, the kids who no longer can walk to school, are they going to be able to take buses? I know y'all got all those answers, but I just really want to make sure we're sending a unified message from the district to go in and run those meetings, and not just leaving that kind of to the principals to have to try to answer questions and all that. I mean, obviously the principals are part of your presentation because they're integral, but I think the sooner we can start setting up those meetings for teachers and parents, probably the better, and as much information as quickly as we can get to them, because I believe we're going to be moving children soon.
We began, spent a lot of time with Hope yesterday, and telling her that once the linchpin, Ms. Brown, was the board approving Springdale tonight. That's kind of the catalyst for making all the other moves. So we'd already begun to talk about the fact that as for the teachers, how we would move, get their stuff boxed up, the moving company come in, pack it up, move it. Kids will leave Springdale, start back where they're going to start back, and we're looking at bus routes. So we've had some of those preliminary discussions with principals. It's just, we didn't want to assume anything until you all voted tonight to do the Springdale. But that's the domino that needed to fall and would fall the other side. So we'll take care of that. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? With that, Madam Chair, I conclude my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenhower. Next item is item E, Human Resources.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. James. Provided in your board packet tonight for your information is a bit of information on legislative changes regarding contract issuance for renewal. In the past, you have been accustomed to us having contracts issued to our professional staff on April the 15th. They're out 10 days. They have to be back by the 25th. Or we have a vacancy. And basically, what this section 5925.410 says is that that date will be moved to May the 1st. And the same rules will then apply. We'll either have a signed contract back on the 10th, or we'll have that vacancy. What you can expect from us at the next meeting is to bring the policy that will need your your approval and change of the dates to correspond with these changes passed by the legislature for this year. Are there any questions?
Do you have any idea why, what the reasoning behind that was to move today?
I do not, and I don't like it.
Mr. Brown.
It's very difficult.
Well, that's what I was thinking, it's just putting a big burden on the districts to push it out that far,
It
right?
really is.
How does that change, sort of, before, people could sign a contract the April 1st deadline, and then there was sort of this, I guess, gentleman's agreement that if somebody moved intra-district after that, but before
That
May
same
or
superintendent,
whatever.
middle superintendent.
Now, is this
agreement
sort of,
exists.
This is going to change that. You're right, because basically under the law, once you sign a contract, the superintendent can hold you. But most superintendents have said, and it's an 82-person that if it's up till July, we'll let them go. After July, if we can find a suitable replacement, or if it's
A promotion.
some kind of promotion, or wife gets a job in Spartanburg and husband is teaching here, or husband gets transferred, extenuating circumstances. But the long and short of it is, now it's May, school's going to be out. It'll have to be an emergency or a major promotion for us to release, and I'm sure that the other districts are going to be the same way, because a lot of these folks, we've got schools right now that are critical needs schools, so getting folks in them is very difficult. And math and science and special ed, if we get some of those people, I mean, we may not even let them go home in the afternoon.
So what I hear you saying is the effect of this change is that this May 10th deadline is going to become more or less a hard deadline.
It is, yes, sir. More or less. There will always be exceptions. I mean, you know that. But it will have to be a really good one. It will have to be promotion, some sort of major illness, moving. It won't be, oh, I'd like to go to District 1 because it's closer to the house. And, okay, go ahead.
You're getting late enough in the year here that you should have made that decision.
That's right. You should have started looking earlier. And the honesty is, if they didn't pick you by late May, you weren't their first choice.
Actually, does it start this year?
Yes, it starts this year, July 1st. Are there any other questions? That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Okay, next item on the agenda is executive session.
Madam Chair, I make a motion the Board of Trustees in a closed session for consideration of personnel appointments and resignations, discussion of personnel matter, discussion of property, and contractual matter, and consideration of intergovernmental agreement.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Mr.